And what about when you're dealing with disrespect? The material suggests combining silence, like we talked about before, with a boundary statement, like that's below my standard for a response. It feels like a really clear way to address the behavior without, getting into a big fight.
It is. That's silence. It can catch people off guard and make them realize, hey, my words actually had an effect. And the boundary statement is just a way of communicating what you're willing to accept without getting into a debate about, whether or not they were actually being disrespectful. It's like saying, I'm not playing this game, which can be really effective.
Gaslighting is such a tough one, and the suggested response is just so direct. I remember things differently, period. No need to, get into this long explanation or try to convince them of anything. Just a firm statement of your reality.
Yeah, gaslighting is all about making you doubt yourself and your perception.
Yeah.
So by just stating your recollection clearly and confidently, you're refusing to play into that. You're holding on to your own truth, and that's a solid starting point for moving forward.
What about if someone's clearly agitated? The material suggests speaking slower and in a lower voice, which seems like a really practical way to try and, bring their energy down a bit.
Absolutely. Your tone of voice and how quickly or slowly you speak it can actually have a big impact on the other person. Speaking calmly, it's like a nonverbal signal that can encourage them to regulate their own emotions and maybe find a calmer way to communicate.
And then they offer these great de-escalation phrases, like acknowledging their perspective. After listening to you, I learned that this topic is important to you, or signaling understanding that's helpful to know. Even if you don't agree with them, you're still finding a way to connect and keep the conversation moving in a more constructive direction.
Right. These phrases are designed to show the other person that you're hearing them without necessarily agreeing with their stance. And that can really help to diffuse tension and create a sense of, being understood, which is so important for finding common ground or just a path forward. Even something as simple as maybe so, in response to a little dig, can stop things from escalating unnecessarily.
And I also liked how they included phrases for acknowledging our own, missteps, like I could have done better. That can really lower defensiveness right away. Oh, and the one about questioning the urgency of agreement. Is this something we have to agree on right now that's so useful for taking the pressure off when you feel like you're just stuck?
It creates breathing room,
Yeah.
right? It acknowledges that, hey, maybe we don't need to solve this very second. And that can take a lot of heat out of the situation and allow for, a more thoughtful discussion later on if needed.
I love the put it down Jefferson technique for not taking things personally. It's such a memorable way to remind yourself that you have a choice about what you let get to you.
It is. It's a really vivid image that reminds you that you're in control of your own emotional responses. You don't have to carry around every negative comment.
And the strategy for handling belittling comments, making the person repeat it, and then asking about their intention, like, did you say that to hurt me? It really forces them to confront their own behavior and how it might be affecting you.
Right. It makes them aware that, their words haven't just gone unnoticed, and it addresses the potential harm directly, which can often lead them to, rethink their approach.
Setting clear boundaries is so important. And the grandfather example they give really illustrates that. Stating what's unacceptable and what the consequences will be, it helps to set those expectations up front.
Yeah, boundaries are all about proactively defining what you need for healthy interactions. And that example really shows how important clear communication and consistent follow-through are.
I also liked how they reframe agree to disagree as an opportunity to understand each other's viewpoints, like saying, it's okay to disagree with me. If you disagree with me, I want to know. It's not a dead end, it's a potential for learning something.
Exactly. It opens up the door for genuine dialogue and encourages understanding different perspectives, even if you don't end up, seeing eye to eye in the end.
And for dealing with provocation, someone who's really trying to get a rise out of you being a wet blanket with neutral phrases sounds like it could be really effective.
It is. It's basically refusing to play their game. By not reacting emotionally, you're not giving them what they want.
They give some specific advice for interacting with people with narcissistic personalities, like creating distance and keeping your responses short and neutral, which seems like a really key strategy for managing those tricky dynamics.
Yeah, with those types of interactions, less is often more. Keeping things brief and neutral can help you avoid getting pulled into those unproductive cycles.
And finally, for someone who's just in a bad mood, creating a safe space and using that "did you mean?" question for rude remarks seems like a compassionate way to potentially address their behavior and understand what might be going on underneath.
6-Minute Podcast.